Welcome everybody to the April Floor Covering News Marketing Mastery webinar. Today, it's just going to be me. Ken Ryan had a last minute emergency, so I've been put in charge of this show. So we'll miss Ken. We'll see him hopefully on the next one. Excited about today's webinar and our guest because floor dealers and really the entire remodeling industry right now is facing huge booms in their businesses. Across the entire remodeling sector. I just wrote an article not long ago that says this boom is going to, extend towards the middle to the end of the year, and then by the time that thing was published. And I read another expert who said, now they're predicting 2022, this could be stretching out. So who knows how long this boom's gonna last. But I think it's really important that we have today's guest, and why I wanted to bring Maddy Martin on, because we're gonna talk about how to get some control over your business so that you are, you're not overwhelmed by all the extra work, that you can take advantage of it, and at the same time get a competitive edge with the box stores and the other people by being available more hours than you're currently open without you having to be there. Okay, so this is we're gonna dismantle everything I just said and explain how that works. But right now, we're going to go ahead and jump into how to be open 24/7 in a 9-to-5 business with my guest, Maddy Martin. Maddy is the VP of Marketing at Smith.ai, which provides small business communication services, including their virtual receptionist and intake service, live web chat, and text answering. She has spent the last decade growing tech startups from New York to California and has expertise in digital marketing, small business communications, lead conversion, email marketing, SEO and content marketing, social media, and event marketing. So Maddy, welcome to today's webinar. I'm so glad to have you here, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Jim. It's great to see you again, and it's great to be here with everyone.
So for people who don't know, by the way, congratulations. Maddy, up until about a week ago, you were the head of growth and education, and you just now been promoted to the VP of marketing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Maddy and I have done several webinars together, and which is why when this boom really started happening in floor dealers, I mean, even to get a floor dealer on the phone these days is like pulling teeth because everyone's so busy, that I knew that this training would be really helpful for all of you. And so I want to thank you all for being here. And Maddy, so let's just jump in and get started.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, Jim, can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great.
And by the
way, we're talking.
By the way, anybody, I'm going to be monitoring the Q&A. In the Q&A box, if you have any questions or comments about anything we're discussing, please put it in, because we want this to be an open discussion as we're going. And I'll jump in, Maddy, when appropriate, if I see something that could be of use to floor dealers. So.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you, Jim. I hope that you will jump in. So we're going to be talking about how to be open 24/7 when you operate a 9-to-5 business and when you want your work life to be contained in those hours, Monday through Friday. So as Jim said, I'm Maddy Martin. I've been with Smith.ai for 4 years now, and we do a variety of omni-channel communication services for solo, small, and medium-sized businesses, mostly across North America. And the reason that I'm presenting today is because I have a lot of best practices to share. As a receptionist and chat service, primarily, we see into a lot of different software, services, solutions, technologies that businesses are using. And we have come to find that there are some do's and don'ts of using these different solutions to extend your responsiveness without drawing down on more of your time and freeing up more of your time. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll talk about how to have 24/7 customer service, lead capture, conversion, maybe even, and then appointment scheduling using the tech that's available to floor dealers right now. So often very affordable technologies, very flexible technologies, and technologies that also integrate with the rest of your business. Those are some of the key ways that we categorize the top ranking solutions. How do they play well with the rest of your stack, so to speak? Now, how do these same strategies and solutions enable you to reduce your stress, the busy work, the overwork, and free up your time? What daily tasks you can delegate right now, like right after this webinar, and how lost opportunities are costing you far more than the cost of delegating. Yes, there are some upfront costs to delegating. You need to pay someone to do that task or pay to have that task automated or that workflow set up, but the lost opportunities are far greater than any outlay you're going to have to set up those automations or delegations. And then finally, what are the benefits of having a system dependent rather than an owner dependent business? And get your mindset, your mind framed around how to begin making that switch, because a lot of it is a mindset shift, and the friction often that comes is from the brain and not from the budget. So what do we know already? What's the lay of the land? Well, business owners know that leads, new potential clients and customers demand a really fast reply. So you can order from a touch of a button, a car, you can order groceries, you can order a ride somewhere, you can get your package delivered often the same day or next day, depending on how delayed shipping is right now during COVID. But typically I'm able to say that sentence without laughing. Most of the time it's still pretty immediate. And as a result, we as consumers and our clients and customers demand that same level of immediacy in our response and the service delivery, with the service starting at the first call or email, right? The service doesn't necessarily start being evaluated when a contract is signed or when a bill, has been put through. The service starts and the client experience starts upon the first outreach. And what we see is, with the vast majority of consumers expecting an immediate response to a sales inquiry, also a service inquiry for existing customers, you're dealing with a very demanding client base or customer base. Now,
So
we also know.
one thing that
Hi, Jim.
that go along with what you're saying is I teach floor dealers that marketing is everything and everything is marketing. So yes, from the first point of contact, whatever that is, that's a marketing opportunity. And the timeliness of your response, how you respond, the quality of the response is a marketing campaign, if you will. So very important.
And I will say this, so Jimmy, bring up a really good point. If you are super responsive on the phone, but you neglect the fact that Facebook has become a recommendation engine and that Google My Business has messages now that people can send you, and people are texting your business phone number, whether you know it or not, plus email, plus the contact form on your website, plus chat, and any directories or listing sites that you're on where you also get messages or that expose your profile, your business online. Those are all ways that to give a seamless, consistent response across every channel is really critical. You may have someone who contacts you on Facebook because you were recommended by someone in the neighborhood or by a friend or family member. And if you don't respond on Facebook, and that's the way that they prefer to get in touch with you, but you're so responsive by phone, then you are seen as unresponsive by that person who is a potential client. And there are plenty of businesses that will respond to those Facebook messages. And frankly, Facebook is now telling us, this business is fast to respond or slow to respond. So you can even get someone to message you if they see upfront before sending a message in the first place, this business will be fast to respond. You should go ahead and reach out. It's almost an extra push in your direction. So that behavior generates more good quality leads to you. Now, the competitive advantage here can't be ignored. 50% of lead generation budgets are wasted on leads who are never contacted. Across all like professional and home services industries, we see these trends, and almost 80% of marketing leads never convert into sales. Now, that's also a matter of poor follow-up. It's a matter of poor documentation, note taking. What did that customer or client want, and making sure that your follow-up messaging is, adhering to, what that first conversation sort of brought to light. But there is a massive competitive advantage here if you consider that your competition is probably not doing all of these things. They're missing calls. And if you just take that call, if you just answer that message that came through on your Google My Business profile, then simply being the first to respond, that is the single biggest determining factor of whether or not someone is going to work with your business. 67% of, and this is in the legal space, but very similar to flooring as well, say that their decision to hire an attorney was most determined by the responsiveness to the first call or email. Now, you can imagine for legal services, if it's that high, if they're not discerning based on anything else but responsiveness, flooring, which is relatively potentially less risky than hiring an attorney for some legal matter, it's going to be even more impactful. Now you have to get work done. And this is really where the dilemma starts to arise. Okay, so clients want me to respond, but half the time when my phone rings, they're spam calls or sales calls or someone telling me I need to bid up my PPC or Google My Business listing, or my Yelp isn't ranking high enough or whatever. And then when I miss a call, because I screen all my calls by sending people the voicemail, when I call back, well, only less than half the time do I actually connect with that lead. Maybe they weren't good anyway. I guess I've lost them. Well, I have plenty of business now. Who cares if I just wasted some marketing spend to get those leads to call me in the first place? Then there's the issue of those who actually do get in touch with you. They don't know what they want. They need vinyl and you only do hardwood, or whatever the case may be. And as a result, you're having estimates and appointments and in-home visits that are a total waste of your time because the screening process is not effective. You're not asking the right questions up front that save your time down the line. Because if you go back and you think, those marketing leads who never convert into sales, well, that's an issue with follow-up. Shouldn't you only be following up with those who are the most qualified, interested, ready to buy leads, who exhibit the characteristics of your existing clients, or of the clients maybe that you want and don't represent your current client base? So the solution here that we're going to be talking about, beyond just virtual receptionists, but this is one component of it. And again, we see into a lot of the systems. So our service allows us access to some of these best practices. You don't have to choose between allocating time to current client work and being responsive to every new potential customer who comes in your door, so to speak, calls you, emails, fills out your form, etc. So when you think about responsiveness, think about also how are you going to address the most common questions proactively? What does that mean about your website content? What does it mean if someone schedules an estimate? What are you going to ask them so that you are on the same page with your customer from the get-go? And the more that you can document this, the more that you can build it into a system to delegate and automate. So there's a little bit of prep work for a lot of payoff later. Now, it's also important that we recognize this is not just about new leads, but also existing clients. If you're responsive to them, the data shows that they will pay more, they will stay around longer, they will come back to you for future work. And actually, it's not just the money that they spend, but also the money that comes to you through their referrals, through the reviews that they post on that Google My Business profile, because those are one-to-many referrals. They're not directly talking to their friend or family member. They're posting it for everyone on the internet to see and passively sending business your way through their 5-star praise.
Just to add to that, Maddy, Walt Disney said, whatever you do, do it so well and so uniquely that others can't help talk about you. And if you're, again, goes back to marketing is everything and everything is marketing. You, by being responsive in the way that you just described, you are being exceptional. the service, home service businesses in general, contractors in general, tend to have lousy reputations in terms of follow-up and even returning phone calls. I remember I was having my yard landscaped. The one that got the job was the one that actually showed up, did the bid, and then sent me an estimate. It wasn't that, just that was it. That's why he got it. So if you're responsive in this way, you are creating an experience that stands out far and beyond not only your flooring competitors, but just contractors in general.
And what you're pointing out, Jim, is that you don't need to compete on all those different features and services and what is it that's your value proposition. You need to compete on responsiveness first. And then it's actually up to you to determine, do you want that client? Are you screening them? Are you, determining this is the type of customer that I'm willing to drive to or service, or I can handle that job, or they're asking me for something special. Do I want to go out of my way and get that? Is it worth it for the time and money that I expect on the other side? So the more that you do this and the more that you document it and the more that you're fast to respond, the more you can control who makes it to the next stage. So that's why it's really helpful to sort of lay it out this way.
Can
If
you back up
yeah.
one? Well, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. I have to say this. This last stat, 67% of customers who receive excellent service spend up to 14% more. That is significant. Okay. That 14% more just paid for whatever it costs you to put a system like this in place, and then some, many times over. So many dealers, they say, oh, I live in my customers only care about cheap price. It's, I have to have my margins low, blah, blah, blah. Everything we're talking about today is going to enable you to command higher prices. Okay, this is all part of that. Every prospect has an unspoken question on their mind. Why should I do business with you instead of your competitor? This entire presentation is giving you a giant A+ positive answer to that question.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I couldn't agree more. And again, you touch on, are you like everything you just said is about also control. Does it feel like the market is controlling you? Does it feel like the phone calls and the email inbox and the orders, those are controlling you? Well, only if the next phone call that happens, you're like, that's going to pay for that debt that I have, or this expense that I have, or this thing that I need. And you're constantly weighing the two sides, the P&L. You really want to get to a point where you have more choice in the matter. Are you being more discerning with the customers who you're working with? Do you get to say, I had 10 calls today, and I really only want to move forward with those 3 customers. The other ones I'll refer to my friends who are starting their business. They're not the right customer for me now, or they're not going to be ready. I'll nurture and follow up with them, and they'll come in next month or the month after. Fine. But are you able to say, I really want these 3 customers now, and I know that if I follow up with them with the testimonial and with the invoice and with the pricing, and I took careful notes, and I'm super fast, not just to respond, but also to sort of decide who I want and execute on that next step, show the control, show the expertise, show that you're the boss of sort of this system. You set really clear boundaries. They're not going to be demanding of you and chasing you for that extra information you promised. If these systems are in order, you have more control. That gives you the peace of mind when you come into work every day, that you know what you're going to be working on, and your systems are there. So it doesn't rely on you always being there. And when we look at this sort of conversion flow, we see the different elements at play. The first, the lead sources, the marketing channels. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from local listing sites, reviews, referrals, pay-per-click, social media? It might vary depending on what your strategy has been there and your investment. You might get a ton of referrals. You might have a very visible storefront, very well optimized website, etc. The contact methods, that's how are they getting in touch with you, continue to expand, right? I mean, are you on TikTok? Are they sending you messages? Are they on Google My Business and they're sending you messages? Do you know if your phone number is text enabled? These are all things that you should have documented, and who is going to respond to each of those channels. You might have someone who is running your social media who never looks at the messages that are coming through on Facebook. Why? Because you never asked them to do that. They don't think it's their job. So take an inventory, hold your team accountable, and there may be a little bit of stumbling, but if that's the case, you know where the holes exist and where to plug them. It's not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is never trying to assign and to document this in the first place. Now, who has the most limited and valuable time? The owner, right? Or owners. And then the sales reps and the technicians and the people who are installing and the people who really like have a very high level of skill, that on the sales side, on the service side, maybe even on the accounting and billing side, you have people who, if they weren't answering the phone or if they weren't doing things that are simple basic tasks, what else could they be doing that's generating revenue or attention or delivering service in a way that is very hard to train? There's sort of a high bar for those roles. They should be spending as much time as possible doing revenue generating work, doing high value work. So protecting their time and yours is critical. So we're not just talking about systems that take, the owner sort of out of the picture of the workflow, but the other specialists who are on the team, how do they get relief from their day? Because they need to be at the tip top of their game as well in order to execute on the sales and service that you need them to. So we've got a receptionist service, we've got, maybe the in-house assistant. We have automated responses like that you might set up on Facebook or with automatic text replies or with someone who is staffing that for you that can handle the beginnings of those conversations and make sure that they're steered in the right direction. And the steering might be some questions. Is it residential or commercial? What type and size and timing of the project is related to this moving forward or not with you? If they're not a good fit, what does your referral network look like? And are you going to generate business in the future back to your business because you're sending them a little bit of business right now? It's not right for you. Great. Hand it over to people who you trust to do a good job. You might even get a 5-star review out of that. Now, for the ones who are good leads, you're moving forward with a basic inquiry form. We call it, intake, for example. What information do you need to gather? Got some examples later on of inquiry forms that are, effective and examples that you may take back to your business. And then do they move forward right away? Do they say, yes, I want that estimate. Yes, I want to meet with you. Yes, I want to discuss exactly what this project is going to cost. Or do you need to follow up with them to nurture? And we will talk about different methods of that. But typically, the follow-up is another area that goes by the wayside, and potential customers who are not followed up with don't end up moving forward just because you didn't ask them. And it's really sometimes as simple as that. They get busy, you get busy. The ones who ask, who are not afraid of a no answer, of taking a little bit of time with systems that automate sort of those prompts, that is the best path forward. And it doesn't have to be you. They just have to have a little bit of information to make an effective call that's accurate. Now, after the estimate, hopefully that potential really well-qualified lead moves forward and then become a new customer. Now, depending on the industry, obviously here, if that new referral becomes a customer for your friend's business, hopefully you actually get something as a benefit on the other side, but that's up to you in those relationships there. So this is just a different way of looking at the flow from the last slide. And I just like to think about this not only as a funnel, we've got this lead flow, but then also as a calculation, including your marketing expenses. So let me just go through this with you for a moment. If you are spending $5,000, let's say, these numbers are, up for your interpretation. And on the next slide, I've got a blank form for you to fill out at your convenience. Let's say you bring 1,000 visitors to your website for a cost of $5,000 for easy math. 80 leads complete or start to complete your contact form. Maybe they call, not all of them are qualified, but half of them are presenting jobs that you're interested or have capacity, can do, right? 20 result in proper quotes and estimates, a meeting, real work that is viable work, sign on the dotted line, of which 50% of those sign, right? They're retained, they're paying. You just made, if they're each going to give you $2,000, maybe that's low, just easy math, 20,000 you just made on 5, right? Now, there is time spent there, and that may be your time, which is adding significant expense to this, or it could be someone else's time, an assistant, receptionist, etc., who has scheduled that meeting with no back and forth involvement. You get down to the estimate sort of row, and there you are now, a sales rep, perhaps the owner for a really big deal, and you only come in at that last moment and you win the deal. You make it right? So the math here has to make sense. If you are spending a lot of money and not seeing the conversion rate because of a lack of responsiveness, because of leads that are leaking out of this funnel that we saw here, because we're not asking and following up consistently, it's not like this funnel happens in a single day. It might happen over the course of weeks. Really big jobs might happen over the course of months, where you're quoting out a really big project. It is a continuum with cohorts, as we say. So you have to keep an eye on this to make sure that you know how much you're spending, and is there loss that can be better accommodated with a little more upfront investment with a much higher conversion rate. So imagine this. Imagine this is a month snapshot. And instead of $5,000, you have another $200 that's added on to handle, a call a day or so from a receptionist service, because that's approximately what's coming through that you would be missing, maybe on overflow or maybe all calls. And you're like, well, okay, for $200, that's not a lot on top of 5,000. But those, let's say 30 calls that come through are actually more qualified than the average bear. They're not just trolling around the internet. They're calling, they have stronger intent. Maybe it's only for a marketing campaign. And those result in an extra client, just one extra client. That's another $2,000. That's 10x return on that immediate spend. You can see how this is extremely cost effective. So there is a worksheet here. And one thing that I would urge you to consider when we think about that model, adding on a small cost to get more revenue on the other side, is even if you have a team who's in-house, well, first of all, is at their highest and best use of their time. Second of all, are they working at 2 a.m? One of the things that is happening right now during COVID, people are working from home. They've become homeschooling experts. They're taking care of elderly parents, you name it. They're more spread thin. Their hours are extended beyond 9 to 5 themselves. When they have a moment to think about their home project or remodel or whatever, that might be 9 o'clock at night. Now, where is your assistant? Well, at home with, his or her own family. That lead is going to come through at the time that's convenient for them, and your responsiveness shouldn't be dependent on your own team's time and their own work-life balance, because especially right now, it is exceptionally hard to hire and to retain staff at your business who's dedicated, those specialists who take a lot of time to find and train and retain. So
I'll just add, Maddy, that the flooring business, I talk to dealers all the time, and getting a salesperson up to speed in the flooring business is not like doing it in a lot of other less complicated industries. There are
Right.
tens of thousands of products. The way it's met, in each product, the way it's installed, when the salesperson, oftentimes the salespeople are doing the measures, and they have to know where to put the seam lines, where the transitions are going to occur, on and on. Do you really want that person answering phone calls, or do you want them out doing this thing that you spent 2 years getting them up to speed to learn to do? And the same with installers, and just about everybody in your business it's a very high skill requirement in this business.
And for those of you who have family businesses where you have multiple people from this, your family who are contributing, that draws down on, well, who's going to, do this activity with the kids, who's going to go make dinner, who's going to do this and that, a lot of shared responsibilities. It's an extra burden. And I will tell you, the cost of replacing a staff member, again, who you have trained extensively, even if not, just replacing a relatively new person who you took a lot of time to hire and you vetted and they're the right fit and they feel like a personality fit in addition to a skill fit, that is extremely expensive to hire, and it is very fast to ruin their experience and have them go elsewhere because it wasn't their cost in coming into your business. It was your cost. So protect that cost and also think about the client experience. What sort of character is going to be on the phone for you who delivers the best experience? Is it someone who would rather be installing flooring, or is it someone who has customer service, hospitality, and sort of administration experience, like a great receptionist or assistant, call center agent would have? You can imagine the person who elects, says yes please for that career, is going to be better at the job than the person who reluctantly is answering the phone and just happens to be
Oh, Maddie,
getting up every time the phone rings.
I've
Right.
I've scolded my coaching clients. I go, you got to get somebody else to answer your phones, or train this person, because when they answer, they sound like every time I call, they sound like they're having a bad day.
I'll tell you this, if
So
you are an owner and you're on this webinar right now, sneak off, like right at the end. You better stay the whole time, but right at the end, go and call your business and see what it sounds like,
yeah.
right? And do you know what your phones sound like when you're not there? It's critical that you do a bit of secret shopping, because if you don't have something like call rail or call recording, you are missing potentially opportunities to get more out of every call if you deliver the nice experience each time and you have the right person who likes to be on the phone. So this is a little worksheet. I'm happy to share this slide deck with everyone afterwards, and I'll share it with Jim and he can share around. But this is your own exercise to create that calculation based on your own data. So how many visitors are you getting? How many leads? Just a month snapshot. So you can say, brutally honestly, how much am I spending and how much am I getting per customer times the number of customers a month? It doesn't have to be super hard, but is it extremely valuable to see, can I spend a little bit more money and can I get a little bit more in so I can reinvest in my business? Can I reinvest in my marketing program? Can I get more control? Because if I have a few more leads, I can move away from those leads that I'm just reluctantly saying, yes, I will take this business because I have to, right? So let's think about phone systems and services. When we want to go 24/7, if we just want to operate and be on call 9 to 5 and not around the clock, now on the weekends when we're trying to spend time with our families, we have to have really great systems in place. Now, if you're using Google Voice for your business, I highly recommend that you go with something else like a phone.com or Nextiva or Ring Central or Dialpad. Any of those four are really excellent VoIP phone providers with very strong connections, low latency. And there's an article on the next page, and you can go read that if you'd like to. Now, it's important that the sort of solution that you pick for your voice over IP has an app on your phone. So when calls come through, maybe it's transferred to you, it's a VIP client and you have to take this call, or to anyone on your team, that you're not giving out your personal cell phone number, because Well, tell me a time when a client got your cell phone number and deleted it off of their phone because they so considerately realized that it's your personal number. It's never happened. They've got your cell phone number now, and you're probably not changing that anytime soon. So don't even open that door.
Okay, so I
It
got to
should only
jump in. I had
okay.
I've worked with more than one dealer who was stressed out, burned out, working way too many hours. It turns out too much of their business was running through their cell phone. Their cell phone was like an overloaded circuit breaker, and we got them stopped routing their business through their cell number and instantly free up to 10 hours a week. Stress goes down. That's such a good point, Maddie. Do not route your business through your personal cell.
You don't have to have two cell phones though, right? You can use the app for your VoIP service, and that is your cell phone, but it's not your cell phone number, right? So you can have multiple numbers coming through to your phone. No
Mhm.
more like juggling multiple phones. That's a thing of the past, right? So the mobility is there, but the interruptions are not. There we go. Then the other thing is, do you have like a sequence and a call flow? Do you have overflow call handling? Do you have after hours? Do you have a team that should be, attempted before you? Are you the first attempt in your phone system? That's crazy. You should make sure that there is a buffer between the inbound calls and you as a business owner or operator or senior manager or whatever position you are in, right? Your time is precious. Let the other people learn. They're not going to be perfect. They're probably not going to be excellent and as great as you are every single time. But you know what? Most of the time, that doesn't put your business at risk. Not answering puts your business at risk, right? So now
Yep.
outbound responsiveness is also really important. One of the things that you should be looking at if you're looking at an answering receptionist service is, can they make outbound calls to those web form leads, to those emails that come through that are forwarded to that service to make a call back immediately? Because there will be times that those leads are coming through in your email inbox and messages, and your team does not have time to get back to them, or it's 7 in the morning and you don't open until 8. But guess what? They're at work at 8 and they're not going to get back to you until later that night when you're not available, or 4 p.m. is the busiest time for you. So when they call, that's when they're available, and you want to get a call answered, or if they fill out a form, get a call back to them right away. It's really important that it's within, minutes, if not an hour at the outset, rather than many hours when you get around to it later that day. Blocking the spam and sales calls is absolutely critical. It's an industry standard at this point. If you're still getting a lot of calls, one of the reasons why you're not picking up, or your team's not picking up, if you're missing calls and letting them go to voicemail, is because of the amount of spam that is just inundating businesses right now, especially home services businesses, professional services businesses. The amount of sales calls and spam that you get is just outstandingly high. It's a travesty, but that's what we have right now. Don't let the good leads go to voicemail alongside them. You really need to make sure that whatever service you choose, they're not charging you for those calls because they're insignificant, but you're not missing out on the good ones that are just another unknown number and you can't tell who's who the vast majority of the time. Now, there are some potential issues with a VoIP phone system. We see sometimes there are VoIP phone systems that create a lot of ring delays and latency. So you want to make sure and call your number from your home number, from a number that's not connected to your business. This is the time to use your cell phone. You're calling your own business, and you want to see how many times does it ring before you connect to a live friendly person, or do you get voicemail? Now, the best practice is if you actually have someone who is counting the rings on the other side. What we find is that it may ring 8 times for the customer side, but it only rings once for the business side. And by the time you're answering, that person is hung up. And you wonder, why am I picking up and there's nobody there? That is a huge problem. And if you experience that, you have to send an email to your VoIP provider. There's a great template for that email actually in this guest blog post that the writer Graham provided. And I encourage you, After this, make sure that the rings are not unequal on both sides of that and that they're not excessive on the customer side. That absolutely will create hangups before a call is connected if it's more than a few rings. So an audit for you. The receptionist side, I will just encourage that you give more than you expect in terms of discretion and decision making. So one of the things that we find is that the people who have the least success with a receptionist service are those who limit the utility. They say, just answer and take a message. I don't want you scheduling for me. I don't want you asking any questions. You're going to screw it up. Well, the result is that the business sort of screws it up, because simply taking a message means that it's on you to call back. And we know 50% of those calls are not going to be answered. And it is demonstrating that there's sort of a bottleneck and that there's going to be a wait time for that customer in working with your business. I'll take a message and then someone will get back to you. When? I don't know. Trust us. We're not working together yet. Why should I trust you? So there is an initial barrier there that does not breed a good relationship from the beginning. You know, are you looking out for that client? Well, why don't you ask them a few questions to see if they're a good fit? And those are standardized. They're not willy-nilly by the person answering. You work together on it, you set it up once, maybe refine it, and then that is the system that you move forward with. And you have the peace of mind that those questions are being asked, and anyone who is scheduled or transferred to you has been pre-qualified. Now,
successful floor dealers who have, you know, multi-million-dollar operations, multiple stores, don't get there because they refuse to let anybody else do anything because they do it the best. 80% is perfect, and you got to let go of that control. It's fun, you know, the skills that got you out of Egypt are not the same skills that'll get you to the promised land. You started your business likely wearing all the hats, and that got you a lot of initial success. Don't let that fool you into thinking that that's going to mean continued growth and success. You have to change your approach.
absolutely. And I, you know, we have to recognize, as Jim is getting at, you know, your business is successful because of you. And in the early stages, your control, that control dynamic was totally different than it might be right now. The level of control that you put in starting your business was critical. You were critical to that success and controlling every little piece of it. But you can be the bottleneck now by trying to control at that same extent, right? So it is a mindset shift, and it's often the most challenging factor in moving forward at a new level, at that level, that stage up. You know, it's not just the same plane anymore. You're operating in a totally different business model where you're delegating, where you're making strategic decisions, where you're out there networking and bringing in bigger business that only you can bring in, because that is part of your expertise and part of your network. So here, you know, this is also one of the precautions around phone systems, is to just not track and follow up with the leads. If you don't have a system that is reminding you, you have leads who haven't converted yet. How many people are in the pipeline who you haven't sent an estimate to? How many estimates haven't made a decision? If they haven't made a decision, you know, the first time, are you following up with them 3, 4, 5, 6 times? Maybe by phone, maybe it's email. You know your client base. Do they want to text you? Give it a try. You never know. It's not just for millennials anymore, but following up, the behavior is the key, not the channel. And you'll find that the 6th attempt is sort of before the plateau. So if you're not following up twice, then you miss a huge percent of those who need a reminder, of those who are busy, who haven't gotten the sort of nudge to move forward. And maybe there's an incentive, or there's a sale, or there's some discount, or there's a limited amount of inventory, or whatever the case may be. But there is something to just following up, regardless of that incentive, that gets people to take action.
It's because following up is so rare.
Yep.
I think in part that explains it.
Yeah, I mean, following up, just a matter of process, nothing to be intimidated by, just doing it. So, there are some best practices when it comes to that qualification stage that we looked at the funnel. Getting a quote, Red Rhino, epoxy flooring provider. This is just an example from them. You know, on their website, they actually have two different contact forms, which I thought was curious. And one is basic contact information, general information or new project. Okay, what type of project is it? It's asking me a couple questions. Selecting the type of project, it was asking me like, is it commercial? Is it a hair salon or whatever? Approximate project size, how many square feet? On the other side, we've got a quote and it's asking me for, okay, square feet, anticipated start date. Well, that's more interesting. Yeah, I do want to know when you would like this job to start. And is it general information? Is it a new project? You might actually ask like, who are you? Are you a potential customer? Are you a potential vendor? Why are you getting in touch with me? Not every question might apply to every person, and you can have conditional logic here that is very beneficial. Obviously, you want to know where they're located and how big the area is, but there might be other factors that go beyond sort of the square footage. What are the things that you need to know whether or not it's worth your while to follow up, and how soon and how prioritized this new lead is going to be? Is it a big project, but then they write garbage in the comments and it's a troll? Or do they write a very thoughtful reply and they say they have an anticipated start date soon, and they have a medium-sized project? Well, that seems like a reasonable person who took time to write something nice to you in a way that's helpful. That's someone who I would follow up with pretty quickly, right? Now, that's a basic intake form. Nothing sort of groundbreaking here. Now, there are all these calculators that exist much more easily than you might think to plug into your website, that are driving a call to action, which is to provide some sort of information. They might do it subtly by saying, oh, well, just save this calculator, and you have to put in your name and email to save it, and they get added to your email newsletter list, and you nurture them until they're ready to contact you. Or it's a calculator estimating the cost of a flooring project, maybe with a range, maybe with different materials, and then your call to action is get a quote or schedule an in-house consultation or estimate. Schedule even a phone call to discuss your project. Why does it have to be in-house right now? Doesn't. How much skin do they have in the game? Now, the nice thing here is that you get a lot more submissions, you get a lot more contact information, but it can be pretty noisy. So this is the sort of thing where you add them to an email list. You might have a receptionist or call center make outbound calls to these leads if you get their phone number, and see, are they ready or are they not? You may find that it's even the cost of 100 calls to get 3 really solid potential customers is worth the time and expense of making those 100, because they're worth so much if you get that customer in the door. So don't just think about contact forms as a simple thing. They might provide value in that activity alone that then makes you the incumbent to beat, because why would they go with anyone else if you've already delivered such value to them? You've established a relationship already. You are the number one in their mind. You're giving something to them before asking for anything in return. Now, as we sort of start to wrap up here, I just have a couple other things, and then I'll tell you a little bit about Smith.ai. So calendaring, absolutely critical. If you don't have it on your website, you don't want someone to have to call, because people who are late at night looking for that provider who's going to fix their flooring situation or upgrade it, remodel it, they don't necessarily want to be on a phone call. So can you give them an opportunity to call the next day? Why not? Let them answer those questions themselves. Let them say, here is what I need on my project. Get a little bit of a high bar. They shouldn't just be able to schedule time with you. They should have to put in a little bit of work to show they're sincere, and then they get to schedule time with you. Now, when we think about responsive channels, we also think about chat, because this is a way that you can run 24/7 without having those phone calls that people may or may not want to engage in. We know through social media that people are very comfortable typing messages and, somewhat awkward on the phone these days. Do people know how to carry on a conversation? Oftentimes they're more comfortable and they prefer live chat. They prefer texting. So opening up that channel will show you on average that there's one chat for every 4 phone calls. That's a lot of chats for some of you who are thinking about that. Those are on average 17%, 15 to 17% net new leads, which means they wouldn't have otherwise called or texted or emailed or filled in your contact form. Those are the folks who see these forms and they're like, I have too many questions. I don't know what type of project it is. I'm not sure about my start date. Can we talk first? They chat in and they ask a couple basic questions that might seem basic to you, but not to them. They get the questions answered and then they move forward because they were blocked. You can do this in an automated way. There are plenty of ways to pre-answer and set up answers to common questions, and then to have live staff who can answer these as well. And they can do so as a gatekeeper, asking those screening questions in the chat without needing that form, but passing it into your system, giving you an alert as a text or email that someone just had a chat who's a viable lead. Maybe you use Slack or Microsoft Teams. And they can even schedule that appointment. They can schedule that in-home estimate, and they can do so in English and Spanish. Depending on where you are, you may find that that's extremely helpful to have that bilingual capability. The last thing that I want to share is the unpaid invoices, because let's be honest, like we've spent so much time getting this work in, and then you don't collect on every bill. Now, one of the lesser known ways of using a receptionist service and outsourcing is to give those accounts receivable, those invoices, over to a receptionist service who can make outbound calls and having them call on your behalf. This reduces that discomfort with that customer you have a close personal relationship with. They don't see you as the bill collector, so why start now? And it gets you paid, because on average, we're seeing that people are not fully getting paid for their work. There are always accounts outstanding. And as a result, they go to collections who take 30 to 50% of the bill. And that's not maximizing your revenue. So just one idea is a way to utilize sort of this service more extensively. As a result, you'll find that it's easier to win new clients and customers. Your marketing results have a far greater return, and you predictably know that when you turn up the dial on that marketing budget, that you're going to get this many calls, and when you answer every single call, how many new leads come through, how many new customers come through. You extend your capacity, you increase staff productivity and happiness, not just clients' happiness, and you reduce those interruptions, because sometimes you just need to get work done, or you need to have a team meeting, or you need to, formalize your strategic plan or your marketing and oversee others that are doing work. So why Smith.ai? Well, we do all of this across the most important 4 channels, which are...
Maddy, hey, let me just jump in real quick here.
Sure.
We're going to open it up to Q&A in a minute.
Yes.
So if anybody has any questions about anything Maddy's covered, go ahead and put it while she's telling us about Smith.ai. Go ahead and put it
Please.
in the Q&A box. Yeah. So tell us about Smith.ai. And I've been working with you, Maddy, for we're going on 7 or 8 months now, and I've just been so impressed with Smith.ai, the team there, the interactions that I've had. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, and I know that you're going to help provide these solutions to these beleaguered floor dealers who are experiencing the remodeling boom and need some help.
Yes, and it is available to you within a day, right? So getting started is easy and lightweight. So we're answering calls, chats, texts, and Facebook messages right now. We're constantly expanding the channels we're on, but those are the most important ones. And really, it's about making sure we know who we're speaking with, creating the disposition correctly. Are they a qualified lead? Are they a new vendor? Is it urgent? Or is it something that can wait? Should they be transferred? Or should they be scheduled, or not at all? And then, how are we making sure that the workflows are in place using your systems? Do you have a database of your customers? Are we plugging the information in there automatically, not logging in, but through software connections that we call APIs? Are we 24/7? Yes. Are we going to sound like we're in-house? Yes. This is not some offshore, very foreign to your business sounding solution. We sound just like we're in-house. We speak English and Spanish, and we have conversations, not robotic sort of back and forth call center interactions with the people who are contacting you. There's a 14-day money back guarantee for all of our plans, which are flexible and affordable. And there is further discounting that happens when you sign on for more services or a longer period of time. And there are very generous referral programs. So if you become a client, just by referring your friends, your bill can actually go down. Now, these are just some of the software programs that we connect to. If you are a tech junkie and you love, connecting your workflows and setting up automations, you'll be very happy to see that we have public Zapier apps for calls and chats. We connect to Google Analytics. You can see, did someone start a chat and then end up buying from me later? Awesome. Go back to that marketing campaign and see if that needs a little bit more spend. Now, the cost per call or chat, it's $5 to $7 per call. Overage is, on a monthly basis also. So you would pay upfront for a set amount of expected calls or chats, but we won't stop answering after that 30, that 60, that 150. We'll keep answering, and we will keep handling those calls effectively 24/7. And then the overage is at a 50-cent greater cost. But as you consistently get a higher volume, then your cost goes down over time because cost per call reduces as your volume goes up. So we have an account manager who will
By the
always
way,
work
I've
with
just
you.
got to, I'm gonna let you keep going. So there's a point I want to make. So keep
Oh, go ahead.
going. Okay. Okay. Your payment plans, one extra sale per month that you wouldn't have already gotten puts you in the black. You've more than paid for this thing.
Yes.
Just one extra sale a month for most average tickets. So this is kind of a no-brainer.
So, and for those who are asking about retail lead management, anything that has an open API or that can connect, basically, if we say that the first name of a caller is this, can we map that to the first name in your database? Great, we can integrate with them. It doesn't have to be a direct integration. It can actually be an integration through Zapier. So we have a lot of resources on that front, and I hope that you'll contact us to see how we can pipe the calls and chats into your system. Full chat transcripts also are an amazing way to build more articles and generate SEO, because the questions that people are asking in chat are often the questions that they're asking on Google that Google is going to tell you is not provided in Google Analytics, right? So amazing SEO hack to go through those chat transcripts and to say, what are these common questions? I should proactively answer them on my website. I can capture more, very interested traffic from potential customers when I have that content in articles in the landing pages that I create on my website. Awesome SEO hack right there. Then there's optional add-ons. So you're only paying for exactly what you need and not what the rest of the customers say that they want us to do, that you also have to pay for because you're in that pool. You only pay for what you need. If you don't want payments acceptance, if you don't want, an intake form completed, you just want scheduling, that's all that you will pay for. And the model here is basically based on the starter price. So $30 a month, it's an extra $1 a call to have that appointment scheduled. Again, a no-brainer, because you're going to probably not reconnect with that person if you don't secure the time right now through a transfer and appointment. Very easy to get up and running. Basically, you just tell us how you want your calls handled. And if you want a very simple setup, we can typically create that the same day. And if you want, our full setup where we are probably scheduling appointments and doing a little bit more, need a bit more information on your business, 1 to 2 days, we will even log into your phone system and help you forward calls to us. You can port your number if you want to, but typically it's just as simple as call forwarding or conditional call forwarding if you want to ring your office first and where you're backup or for after hours. Completely risk-free. We will also install the chat solution on your website and get that tested and designed for you. So you don't have to engage your IT person. You don't have to deal with Ring Central support. We can help you with all of that. And hopefully you will feel at the end of the day like Justy Nickel does, where Smith.ai has become your secret to business growth and client happiness. So thank you everyone for the time today. I hope that I provided a lot of just guidance and invaluable resources to you. But I would love to show you what we can do for you at Smith.ai directly.
Oh, that's fantastic, Maddy. So why don't you read out the phone number for people who are just listening to
Sure.
get so they can call you, contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So really easy to remember. The website is just Smith.ai and the phone number is 650-727-6484. If you would like, you can email us at hello@smith.ai. We also offer 30-minute free phone consultations to discuss how we can best serve your business. Just visit the website or contact us by phone or email.
Okay, I think this is a no-brainer. Even if you're a little bit overwhelmed with all the possibilities, I know from having worked with Maddy and her team, what they will do is they're going to ask you questions about your business, and they're going to show you how they can make this work in your business and benefit you and get an ROI very quickly. Maddy, before we wrap up, I had a question for you.
Sure.
What would you say to a dealer who is, they keep everything in house right now, everything's done in house, and there may be a little trepidation about having part of their team be, remote or not in house? What would you say to that dealer?
I would say that overflow is an easy way to get started. You're already going to be, probably missing the after hours and evening, weekend phone calls. Chat is a no-brainer. It's an extension, it's an add-on to what you currently have. So if we think about preserving that experience that happens during the daytime by phone, we're not in your email, there's that's preserved. What is the extra? What is being actively missed that we can at least just come in and build your confidence in us to handle what would have been lost anyway? What's lower risk than that?
Yep, I totally agree. Give them a call. This is really a no-brainer. Again, you're not selling hot dogs where you have to make 1,000 extra sales a month to pay for this one sale, and you've got a professional team handling all this for you. Maddy, thank you so much for coming on and taking your time and sharing with us. I've learned a ton. Every time I sit through one of your trainings, I learn new things and stuff I want to integrate into my business. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for announcements on our next Marketing Mastery webinar. We're going to be having Scott Humphrey, the CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, will be our next guest. So look out for those messages. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.